Like Sue said, my name is Jessica Bagsby. I'm the category manager for Modo Eyewear. Previous to working with Modo, so I'll give you a little bit of background, I spent 17 years at Walmart. So within that time, I had the opportunity to do lots of great things. I was a buyer. For several years, I worked in replenishment. And then towards the end, I went on to Amy Aiken's item file team as a senior project manager. And if you've ever sent an email to the address itemsetup@walmart.com, that was my team at Walmart. And I had just a wonderful opportunity to work within the Supplier Center application at Walmart. Within that, we were able to go out into the community. We worked with lots of suppliers on the store shared item side of the business. And for that, we would go out, we would get feedback on what was working within Supplier Center, what wasn't working, how we could make it better. And then we worked back with our .com partners to make sure that we got some of the ideas from the supplier community implemented. So with that said, today we're going to talk about Supplier Center. I want to make this very interactive, so I have somebody in the back. Raise your hand, Allie. She has microphones, so if you have questions on any of this, please don't hesitate to ask. And then I'm going to ask some questions, and I want to get some feedback from you guys, okay? So we'll walk through the history of Supplier Center, how it came about, kind of where it's at today. And then I'm going to ask Colin Bramel to come up here with me, and we're going to go over some of the good, the bad of Supplier Center, give you guys some good feedback. And then he's going to continue going on some of the technical aspects of it as well. So first, wanted to start with the store and online shopping experiences. So start with a couple of stats. 88% of shoppers characterize quality content as being extremely important. What is quality content? Any of my content experts out there, when I say quality content, what does that mean to the shopper? And this is where we interact. Great. What else? Attributes. What about attributes? What makes a quality attribute? Correct dimensions, specifications, how it looks online to the shopper. I didn't hear that one. Creative content. What makes the creative content? Nice. Knowing your product, so knowing what the shopper needs and knowing what they want, that will all fall into quality content. So 82% of shoppers use their smartphones as shopping assistants in the stores. So this last week, I went to Walmart and I stepped back and I took a look at how the shoppers were shopping. And I was truly amazed at how many of them were actually shopping on their phones while they were shopping in the stores. And so that just goes to show you that how important it is to tie the store items to the online items as well. So I went in to purchase a mop. While I was in the store, I Googled what are the best mops out there, and then looked on Walmart.com for that mop to see if they had it in the store. Because now on Walmart.com, you can also see which aisle, which I thought this was pretty cool, the items are located in. So went through, looked at the items, looked at the content, what the supplier who had written the content had to say about that item, and I chose it based on the content for that item. So when I go back to saying that quality content is extremely important, one of the items that was ranked as a high-ranking item for a mop, I did not choose because when I went out to look at it, there wasn't great stuff written about it. Multi-channel shoppers spend 3 times more than single-channel shoppers. So what does this mean? Why do they spend 3 times more? A couple of other interesting facts about this is that customers who research their items prior to shopping in store will spend up to 30% more. They also will be 23% more likely to be repeat shoppers at the store. So it all comes together, making sure that you have that online. 56% of every dollar spent in store is influenced by digital transactions. And then my favorite, 81% of people ages 18 to 34, they want to buy everything online. Have 2 kids that are 20 and 23. They don't shop in the store. I think the only thing that my son shops in the store for are his shoes, and it's so that he can try them on. Everything else that they buy is bought online. And I think that is a huge age group, and what we need to be looking at is how can we get it online within Walmart quicker, faster, and easier. So if you look at what Doug McMillan said a few years back, and if you've ever listened to any of the presentations that Walmart's given, you've probably heard this quote, which is, customers just want us to solve their everyday problems with an easy, seamless shopping experience. Walmart laid out the expectation of this is what we want for our customers, and from that, Supplier Center was built. Supplier Center is a single item platform. So with the single item platform, the goal is to bring everything in the stores online, and you should be able to shop it both ways. Real-time updates. The goal would be anything that you put in Supplier Center, that it automatically updates. So you should be able to put it in, go online, and be able to see your updates made. We all know there are some issues with some of the attributes being able to do that. We'll get into that in a little bit too. And then consistency. So it's just consistency. It's that seamless shopping experience across the board, whether you're in the store or whether you're shopping online at Walmart. So what does Supplier Center look like today? So there's 2 different types of Supplier Center. One, you may have heard it called Supplier Center Lite. This would be for any store shared item. This is where you would go in to update content and images. You can update content, you can update images. You cannot create items within this. So for store shared items, I can't stress enough, because this was always the number one question that was asked is, can we create items? For store shared, no, you still go through the same item creation process. You access it via retail link, and then the support, like I talked about previously, is items set up at walmart.com. They have a whole team that's what they do. There's about 6 or 7 of them that they work on any issues that come in for the store shared suppliers. And a little tip, you can also reach out to them for online stuff, and sometimes they can get it pushed through a little quicker. So for your online only items, you can add the content, update content, add images. You can even create items online within Supplier Center. You access this through supplier.walmart.com, and they have a different avenue for support. So their avenue is supplier support at walmart.com. I also found out this last week that it looks like they've put a little help icon within Supplier Center, so you can click on that and it automatically creates a ticket. So if you think about 18,000 suppliers using Supplier Center, you can imagine how many tickets. They literally were receiving thousands and thousands a day from people that were having issues or having questions. So this should help them be able to streamline a lot of the stuff that's coming into them. Any questions on this? Allie, can you give her mic towards the back?
I was just going to say I emailed supplier support. You probably all know this anyway, but I was just going to throw it out. I emailed supplier support last week, and they told me that I think it's at the beginning, sometime in May, that's not going to be answered anymore.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to, I did notice that they now have a help button up at the top. They haven't made the announcement online, but I've heard that some suppliers have had their emails bounced back to them. So just so you know, if you go out there and have an issue and need it, try the help button at the top and see if it works for you.
Yeah, they replied back and said that's the way that you just start using it, because eventually that supplier support will no longer be answered.
Yeah. I mean, you can only imagine thousands of emails. It was extremely hard to keep up with that many and make sure that the follow-up and the feedback loop was done correctly, and this should help that tremendously. Allie right here, the middle.
I don't want to jump ahead here, but are you going to speak to the note on suppliers updating content and the system's ability to accept it? There's some gatekeepers that are in place.
Yeah.
It seems to vary by category or team.
Yeah, we're going to get into the ranking here in just a minute. Allie right here in the middle.
So with the help button, is that a generic Q&A type of platform, or is it a real-time interaction if you have specific questions?
It will be one that you send, and it creates what they call a ticket. And so you'll actually get a ticket ID with it. And then that way, as feedback's coming back to you, you can apply that ticket number if need be, and you're always getting updates on it. From what I understand, that's how it's going to be. Any other questions? Back over here.
Okay, I ran into an issue last week. We were trying to set up a login for the Supplier Center, and I emailed item setup. They told me to email supplier support, which I did, and it bounced back. So I emailed back to item setup, and then they said it was a constant. I know there's many people working over there, but
Yep.
they kept saying you need to go to the help icon, and I kept saying I don't have a help icon. We'll log into the one. That's what I'm trying to do, is get a login. And
Yep.
it took forever to try to figure out how to even get a login at that point, because
Right. So the
and
whole
it ended up
process.
having to go to somebody that I knew off of my Facebook page to email somebody else to get me that login.
Yeah, and so I contacted the team at Item Setup Thursday of last week to say, hey, do y'all know anything about this before I go speak about it? They were like, no, this is the first that we've heard about it. And I'd been out on the Facebook group and saw the comments that were going back and forth. And so I sent it over to them and was like, can we figure out what's going on? So they're in the process of writing some communication so that it can go out to everyone. For now, at Item Setup, they are now aware of what's going on, so they should be able to help you a little bit more with that. But the process would be to go to the supplier support or the help button for login issues. Does that help?
Yeah, if it's to create a login, you don't have that help button. If you can't log into Supplier Center except through Retail Link,
Okay.
and our Retail Link does not
So
have
it doesn't
that.
have it
No.
even without. Okay, so let me see if I can find out. I'll shoot out an email once I'm done here and see if I can find out what that expectation is.
Okay.
Especially if they're telling you that you can't use it.
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much.
Yep. What else? Okay. Good stuff. So you sure no other questions after this? Okay. So let me just ask real quick. How many in the room have used Supplier Center? Oh, wow, that's a lot. How many of the room have successfully used Supplier Center? It's better than what I thought, so that's good. How many of the room have just really had major issues with it? Okay, that's more of what I thought. Okay, so that helps me out a little bit. So now I'm going to ask Colin if he can join me up here. So I took some comments. These vary from whenever I was at Walmart, just from talking with suppliers. There's a few Facebook comments on here, and some of the top issues that I had whenever I was with Walmart to try to maybe help alleviate some of the questions that you have. And Colin's going to be here to help me because he has, I don't know if you guys have met Colin, but he has tons of great best practices and little tricks and tips that you're going to get into in a little bit.
Just a little bit. So I'm excited. We're going to get into afterwards some pretty more in-depth Supplier Center tips and tricks and hacks, and see how those of you that had your hands up and it's you guys have successfully used Supplier Center, you're almost there. Some things you can use to better your items and better your search engine optimization, and do it for very little cost. And all in house. So.
Okay, so let's get started with some of the questions. Being able to add content, so this was an actual supplier quote to me whenever I was at Walmart. Being able to add content and images myself has increased sales on my item or items by 25%. So my question back to them was, how did you do it? Because that's really amazing. I mean, imagine running a support team. You rarely hear the good about what's going on. So I was like, wow. And it goes back to, and I think some folks talked about it earlier, it goes back to the basics and the foundation and understanding how Supplier Center works. And getting those basics in there, taking your items from the very beginning and making sure and ensuring that those items are set up correctly with quality content, with good images, and then after that, it's just working through the exceptions each week. I don't know if you have.
Yeah, the foundation is crucial. So one of the things I tell a lot of people that come, reach out to me and ask about, hey, what do you do about Walmart.com? It's be compliant, get compliant, but never be complacent. So, get everything compliant first, and then begin growing after that. So one thing, Jessica and I talked about a little bit about this before, is with a lot of people, they focus so much on the sparkle or the shiny things or the enhanced content or that kind of stuff. But we need to focus on the foundation first. And so, for those of you who had your hands up that had troubles or didn't get your items set up or are unsuccessful, the first thing is get your items set up. You can't put all that other stuff on there without the items being set up right. So get them set up right, make them compliant. And then, so once you lay that, concrete foundation, then you can focus on, the shutters and the drapes and how you're going to paint the walls. But get that foundation first and get those items, compliant and set up correctly. So
does that help? Any questions after hearing some of that, of how we've kind of managed it, how other suppliers have managed the business? Okay. So the next one, how do I get my content to stick? And I think it goes back to asking the question over here. So currently within Walmart, there is a ranking algorithm. And so what it does is whenever you go in and update your content, if there is someone that has merchant access, so typically it's somebody on one of the support teams or an online merchant, because store merchants do not have this access, but an online merchant who has gone in and made updates to the items, you will not be able to make updates to that content. Does that make sense? Yep. You have an item, let's say we have the water bottle, and you're the supplier and you want to update the content on the water bottle. If there was a .com merchant or somebody on the support team who have made changes to that attribute for that water bottle, you as the supplier will not be able to go in and make those changes. I can't hear you.
Only to that specific.
Correct.
Because that will be grayed out. But you
Correct.
can change it on the line.
Correct. So you can, I think I put, you can't see it very well, but this is one of my eyeglasses, and you can see on the description that the arrow is gray. I cannot go in and make changes to that. I have to send that over to either an online merchant or one of the support teams to update for me until they can get the ranking fixed.
now is that because it's a private label or what?
That's my guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of private label items for Walmart, and so a lot of times I'll see that there's a lot of grayed out check marks in the content, portions. So I have had success. A little tip is I've had success before if I had things grayed out. If where the G10 is, so if I do have the item and everything's grayed out, I could paste in the G10, and then it'll pop down and say, hey, is this your item? So sometimes, occasionally, this has worked where I would click, yes, this is my item, and then I got access to the content. So if you are having that issue, I'd recommend trying that and see if it gets you that access that you need. So the UPC and the check digit, so I can't really see. So So in the product identifier right here, so it says G10. If you just paste in your G10, so your UPC, if you don't have the check digit, you can go to a check digit calculator, figure that out, and it'll calculate that for you. And then once you paste that in there, a window will pop down that says, is this your item? So it could be because a third party, in my experience in the past, has set up this item and claimed ownership of that content. So when I put that G10 in there, I then took ownership of that content. And I saw a lot of the gray check marks would turn gold. And then I'd have the ability to edit or maintain that content. No, it doesn't.
Okay. So the next question is, how do I create store items using Supplier Center? You don't. So again, for store items, and I can't stress it enough, use the current item creation process. I can't log into Supplier Center. How do I get access? We talked a little bit about that. I will follow up and see what their process is now that they've taken that email away. My items show pending for days and days and days. How many people have had that issue? How many people have got it resolved? How did you get it resolved?
We just emailed a category specialist.
Yeah. So unfortunately, a lot of times, and that's why I kind of said it before, I pull my reports each week. I look at the exceptions of things that maybe are not published anymore, and then I go work on those. I just lump all items together and shoot it over to a category specialist or to one of the support teams. Yep. And they're very helpful, and there's some things that they can do on the back end to push it through. Yeah.
From Supplier Center, right?
Yep.
So you have like your publish or your total amount, and then the next column is your exceptions. When you download your file, it's everything.
Yeah, I have to go through and filter through it. Yep. And I have something set up to where once I put it into my spreadsheet, it automatically does the filtering so that I'm truly looking at exceptions. Let's see. Do I have to pay someone to upload the content for me?
No, you don't. And so that's, all of your, are able to maintain your items and get the basics done. So with, communication with your Walmart.com team, keeping, an action plan, that's one thing that really helped me. So last year I managed about 13,000 items on Walmart.com, just me. And in order to do that, I had to develop some tools and kind of get into the weeds a little bit. And I was able to figure out kind of my processes. So find your processes, and one of the things that really helped me, is a lot of those, people that you'll be paying to have help you have, relationships directly with people at Walmart, right? So you're paying for that connection. So one thing that, like I've experienced with that is if I communicated with my buyers on a regular basis via email, I was kind of just an email because one of my buyers would have 2,000-3,000 emails on Tuesday. He'd filter through them, get to mine, and I was just an email. But I kind of made it a point to get out there and develop a relationship with that buyer or that team, and that really helped in the long run when I needed stuff done. So developing that relationship, hey, I want to help you, succeed if you help me, has really helped in the past as a supplier. So I think when you're paying for someone to set up your items or for that support, you're paying for that relationship that they have directly, also for tools. But like Supplier Centers, it has its, issues, but it's an amazing tool if you can, learn some of the tricks and tips that we'll go over in a little bit to optimize it. So.
What about defensive tactics, like keeping people out of your content, like 3P, or how do you keep others from changing your images or any of your other content?
So that's something I've worked with in the past. So one of my clients, we had about 2,600 SKUs on Walmart.com and in the stores. And so there's a lot of third-party providers that would, come up and, change content. Especially, this happened a lot when something went out of stock. So if something went out of stock or if the feed wasn't, updated, then we'd see sometimes it would revert to the third-party provider. And then they would then edit the content. So one thing is stay in stock is what I would say from my past experiences, but also staying in communication with your team at Walmart and kind of saying, hey, this is changing. Can we figure out a process for this? Or if there's, if it could be duplicate items. If somebody, I don't know if I've had issues in the past where the system was creating multiple items under the, different G10s or the way that someone was creating it with, instead of 3 zeros at the front, it was 2 zeros with an extra check digit. And so there's a lot of different factors that can go to it. So kind of narrowing that down, keeping record of that. So if it happens again, you can also be proactive and say, hey, this has happened a lot with third parties. They've been, getting into my content, and I think this is how. So a lot of times, your team is not going to have, the time to be able to diagnose an issue, just that one issue. So keep a log and a communication log with your buying team or your merchant team, and I've had really good success with getting those problems solved in the past.
So 2 questions. First, as far as the images, earlier this year, the Supplier Center, they were talking about just, have the image of the item, the white background, to upload. Our buyer doesn't want that. She wants actual type, lifestyle type images.
Yep.
If I upload those, will they be denied?
No,
Okay.
no. I just recently, because you can imagine with eye care, you don't just want a pair of glasses, so people want to see what it looks like on. So we uploaded some that were on models, and it worked fine.
Okay. Second question, why isn't there a save button to save your progress before you want to submit the item?
So the question is why isn't there a save button before you go to submit your item? This is something that has been requested and requested and requested, and I think will continue to be requested. From what I understand, there could potentially be something coming out in the near future, but it hasn't been announced. Because that's been from day one, that, yeah. Yeah, because, and some people have the issue of retail link times out, and they've made changes, and the changes don't take, and you have to go back in, and so it has been funneled up. I know that before I left, it was on the list of things to be done this year. There just was never a timetable.
Yeah, that's something I suggested in the past too when I was working directly with the Supplier Center team is having like a save as drafts, so you could have different drafts of the items. So like if it, like say, this is a season, 1. So if I have an item that's, cough, cold, then I would say that draft of content would be cough, cold, but, season 2 would be allergy if I was working on that. So it's something through that communication recently, it's something that's in the works to roll out, but there's not an ETA yet.
Oh, questions back there?
So, do you know as a merchant access that save and continue was there once upon a time, but if you ever used it, then it stays in your dashboard. Mine showed us about stuff right now. It's incomplete and missing. It stays incomplete for forever, and you can never do anything with it. You have to go back and set up another one.
I would have to look at it.
So you talking about that glitch that kind of happened in the beginning stages? I think it was in March or April
This has been,
of last year.
since we first got on board, so it's been over a year.
Yeah, so that's something that I've experienced too, where if I did create like a draft or save and continue, a lot of times my items would get stuck in either processing, system error, or incomplete. And so that was something back then I had to submit what's called an IMS form, which would allow a merchandising assistant or buyer to bypass the systems of checks and balances in Supplier Center. So I'm not sure if they're accepting those anymore, are they?
No. Are you an item shared store supplier or an online only? I would send it to item setup at Walmart. Have you sent it? What was the response?
One tip that I have for you for that is really successful if things were getting, I guess I was sending emails but I wasn't getting responses, is I would bring it to the store buyer's attention saying, hey, I think
That works really
this is
well.
not really working. And so then I would CC the store buyer in there. I mean, it's kind of gutsy, but like it would be careful. I mean, don't do this every time, but it would speed up the process, and eventually the store buyer would, raise the issue. Now, one tip that I had before, too, I don't know if, sometimes I would put the store buyer's email in there and just like move a letter around, and seriously, I'm not joking. And
That really does work.
No, I've had huge successes like putting like the buyer's email in there, and then like Billy at Walmart, and I'd take one L out or put a capital I. You know what I'm saying? And like I get a response like that, and so I didn't have to make the buyer mad. So I'd put in just to make it look like the buyer was in there. And if I got called out, I was like, hey, whoops, sorry, ADD.
But just
So-
be careful and make sure that you actually remove a letter, because somebody did that using Steve Braxby's name. And I got a phone call from Steve Braxby saying, hey, what's going on with this? I was like, why are you asking about pending updates in Supplier Center?
And do be careful CCing people the stores in too. That's something that I've seen people that I've worked with, clients that I've worked with, or people that I've worked with on the same supplier team, CCing people that are well beyond fixing those issues or even knowing about them. And it puts you on the poo list like that. And then you get nothing done. So it's one of those things, like you really want to make sure that if you are escalating those, first put the buyer's email in there incorrectly, and then if you get nothing back, then put the real email, I guess.
Yeah, and I'll give this contact name out, and I'll probably have a text by the end of the day. Sam Lynch, who works on the item setup team, she is extremely helpful, and she understands Supplier Center front and back. She's always somebody good to keep handy. Do you know who I'm?
Yeah, she's
So
awesome.
don't everybody run out and send her all your issues today, but she is helpful if you get in a bond. What other questions?
There's a bulk upload. Will there ever be like a bulk unpublished for discontinued items? I feel like our problems are getting buyers to discontinue items that we can no longer ship them.
So I always use the item maintenance form. So, and I just discontinue items with that in a bulk kind of way. So I'd put the G10 in there, the item information, and submit it to the merchant team or the buyer, and they get rid of it pretty quickly. So have you used that before? Or? Yeah, so if you go, all of y'all, if you ever have a moment, if you go into Retail Link, click on Learn. So it's this new kind of knowledge portal that's for owned suppliers or somebody that's got a lot of items on there. So if you click the Walmart.com section, you'll see a bunch of classes. Click one of those classes, and then don't watch the class. Like go up to the top, there's a search bar, and then you can search stuff like that, like discontinuing Walmart.com items. And the first thing that'll pop up is item maintenance form. So I've used that a lot with EDI issues, or a lot of store level stuff that's super complex. You just type in that keyword, or they use hashtags. So I guess that's kind of millennial-ish, and it works really well. Just type in your hashtag, and you get your, some answers. So.
Very good. We can talk about this a little bit. So, asked earlier, do I need to pay somebody to do this for me? I want to go ahead and throw this out here. Did we have another question? Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say I can wait, but one thing I wanted to say that we've had success, we are store shared items only at our company. We just got ownership over all content, and we worked with the labs team to do that. So I know they're starting to roll that out slowly, but certain categories can gain that if they find the right person. Two, though, what we've had a big issue with is getting items off of Walmart.com. Specifically, I think in our category, we're food, we're all perishable. So a lot of the buyers just don't have the knowledge base yet, or they haven't experienced this a lot yet. And so we as a supplier don't have a resource or access to help them understand how to make sure that those items are removed or taken down. And so we only sell for example, our company is 350 items, but we have 800 published. So how do we get all those old items off so that we're not cluttering the system and so that consumers aren't confused? Is there a secret to that? How do we go about doing that?
Or is it online only items or shared?
We have none. They're all shared.
I would send it to item setup, because you can send them a list of G10s and tell them that you cannot get the items to publish. I would probably copy your buyer on that as well, or at least
Or fake buyer.
make the buyer aware.
Okay.
that you're doing this because they may come back and say, I need merchant's approval.
Yeah, item setup always comes back with an email saying we can't do that, go through
Yeah.
your buyer. And then our buyer doesn't necessarily understand how to do that, right? So we're in this kind of limbo stage where
Yeah,
we're going
I
in
think
circles.
sometimes it's how it's worded too. So a lot of times when the folks who work on the teams, they see we don't want it on .com anymore, they're probably telling you, no, we can't do that because they can't go in and change the status of an item, like if it's active and so sometimes I think that's what they think.
Okay.
You're requesting, so the more that you can say, I need the items unpublished.
What department are you in?
Meat, so all meat departments, 93, 97.
You're shipping
98.
meat?
Yeah, sorry?
I'm just kidding. No, so anyways, so if you're shared, sometimes the .com, if you're talking to the .com buyer about discontinuing the items, right? Or the store?
Both.
Okay. So I've worked in perishables, and I currently work in perishables and grocery, 92, and I've only had success with a store buyer on that. So a lot of times you'll see rollouts of, I guess one of the plans is for all the different departments to merge. If they're omnichannel items, they'll just be the store buyer will be over a portion of those or all of it or who knows. And so what I would recommend is definitely include the store buyer on that, and if he's not doing anything, then tell him to take the item maintenance form and submit it into the legacy system, and then that will do it.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you. And then I'm sure you're going to get to it, but I saw stickiness. Are you going to get to that subject later? Content stickiness?
We will a little bit, yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, so just real quick, I actually pulled this off knowledge base that is out in Supplier Center that talks about the CSPs and the CSSP. So currently there's around 20-ish CSPs that are approved, CSPs that suppliers can work with. And then something new that has been rolled out is what is called a content studio service provider. And what this is there's pre-negotiated rates, and Walmart will own all the content created by the CSSPs. So those options are available for you. I would highly recommend you can go out into Knowledge Base, and there's actually a section that lists all of the CSPs and then what each of them do, so that you can see what would work best for you.
Any questions about CSPs, CSSPs?
Okay. So real quick, there's a lot of areas where you can go and get help for Supplier Center. So I just want to touch on a few of them. Again, it's the two websites or the two email addresses or the help on Supplier Center. Facebook, so there's a Walmart.com supplier support group. There's lots of interaction that goes on this web page with Supplier Center. Go out, ask the question. Typically, you're going to find somebody that has done it before and can help walk you through it.
It's been pretty successful. One thing is though, I put a little quiz on there, like put your department that you promise you won't be soliciting services, and nobody's been doing that. So please, if you join the group, I'll accept you if you do that. It's been like, you can ask any question. There's so much knowledge on there. I mean, you got people that have been working with Walmart.com since like the legacy system way back in the day, SAO, EMI, all those systems. They're super knowledgeable, and you'll see responses pretty quick. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's another Facebook page, and I did not put it on here, but it is the Walmart Supplier Support Group. And this is for everything non.com. So we've transitioned the .com over into something separate, but there's lots of good stuff from replenishment to buying to things I haven't even heard of that people have
Forms,
issues with.
there's like lists that are compiled that are got information on it that we all want all the time, that are kept updated, and best practices. People upload success stories and things. Hey, this worked with getting to my RM. So if you are shared, I recommend that, joining that group, but also joining the .com group, which Jessica and I manage, and some other people here, and it's get some questions answered pretty quick. So it actually it's gotten some more tenured people I work with to join Facebook, just because of that, because of the documents and stuff. So.
Down at the bottom left, the Supplier Center tools and resources. So this is for our store shared suppliers that are on Retail Link. So Walmart manages this page. They put there's great one-pagers. There's even content guides by SBU out there that you can go out and look at Walmart content on. Up at the top where it says Home, Knowledge Base, FAQ, so this is in Supplier Center. Knowledge Base is a great tool. So if I'm having issues within Supplier Center, that's the first place I go. Because typically I can get an answer to it because they literally have step-by-step instructions on how to do everything.com within Supplier Center. And there's great FAQs. Down at the bottom right, the NWA RLUG. I know that there are different people from Walmart that come and speak. I will tell you, last year, I believe that the item setup team was at every single RLUG group, giving updates, giving presentations, doing questions and answers. So that's another good place. And then the new one, the Supplier Community Meetup for e-commerce professionals. So you can go on to Supplier Community and sign up for this. This happens on a monthly basis. People get together and we discuss issues, opportunities, share best practices.
It's pretty awesome. So we drink beer because e-commerce is a struggle. So I noticed a lot of y'all aren't really asking too many questions, so we couldn't get a happy hour now. So, but just loosen up and ask your questions. So we drink beer and answer questions, or ask questions, answer questions, share. We laugh, we cry. It's a great time. So we have some great speakers that have come in and given best practice. But I mean, the last couple of times we've had 1 hour plus Q&As and brainstorming sessions. So it's been any of y'all that are local, I highly recommend that you come join us there. So there's a limit. We've maxed out the attendance limit every month. So get up on there and sign up like right now. So thanks.
Okay, so the last thing that I have, and then you're going to go over some of the tips and tricks and all that good stuff. And I'm going to give this to you guys. Please don't everybody rush out and send me an email. But here's my contact information. If you have questions or you don't understand and you're not getting the help that you need, please just send me an email. I will gladly help in any way that I can to get the communication back. I believe that Supplier Center can truly do good to get the content and images online, and I do understand quite a bit about it, and if I don't, I know who to ask, so don't hesitate to reach out. That's all I got.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to talk for a little bit. I don't know, Jessica, if you want to come up later after I get done, and then we can answer some more questions. Hopefully, y'all loosen up by then. So, full disclosure, before going into retail or into Walmart e-commerce, I was a full-time evangelist. So it's kind of funny. I feel like I'm still kind of in that role. I feel like I'm having to work with these tenured professionals that I work with who don't really buy into e-commerce. It's just a fad. And kind of get them to accept us millennials and grasp on to kind of how this is evolving into something pretty amazing. So if I go off on a rant, or if I start preaching too hard, you give some amens, hallelujahs if you hear something you like. So, but kind of something that's been touched on by a lot of the speakers before me, and it wasn't intentional at all. So it's talking about the foundation. So one of the things that I kind of mentioned earlier is focusing on the foundation before you focus on all the cosmetic or additional features of your e-commerce. So if you actually can get your items online, so that's step one. Step two is getting that foundation. So being compliant and not complacent. So before you focus on the shutters and the drapes and the paint you're putting on the walls, and you really want to get that foundation. So you want to put this is just basic content. And so a lot of people think that basic content is just like a couple images, a couple bullet points and descriptions. But to me, to totally thrive online, it's got to be more than that. So So before you do that, focus on that foundation, pour that cement foundation, level it out, audit it, check for cracks, make sure it's looking good, fix any issues that you might have. And then one of the cool things, we're going to get into a little bit, I don't know if you guys know what search engine optimization is a lot of people know what it is, but sometimes I get, what is an SEO? Like, what is an SEO? Where can I find it? I'm like, it's everywhere. Like, so we'll get into that just a little bit. And so that's kind of what staining the concrete. So kind of like, e-commerce is always changing. So it's something where you're always gonna have to improve and learn and adapt and build upon, what you've put online. So, all right, so kind of what she went over, this is what I consider to be best practices. So this is like the very basics. So I'll give you guys time to take some notes and I'll rant a little bit. So to get it all started is choosing the best category and subcategory. So I've worked with peanut butter companies where the peanut butter would be in alcoholic beverages. I've worked with, tires where the tires were in mattresses. I've worked in, where I was looking up something and paintings came up and it was not even, related to that. So it's make sure that you got the best category and subcategory. So if you ever are in Supplier Center and you got some time to kill, I definitely recommend going through your items and making sure they're all in the right category and subcategory. So you'll see in Supplier Center, it'll say, what department you're in or category. I definitely recommend going and fixing that from a findability or searchability standpoint. And also, I like things to be, especially if you're omnichannel, like all of my items, I really want everything to match the stores as closely as possible. So, so channel type, so, understanding like if you're going to set your items up as owned or drop ship, what that means. So if you are using, last year, so I worked with a company that had, 2,600 items for, Walmart and, a bunch of retailers. And, they used a third-party shipping company. And so those items were set up as drop ship items, but then their store-level items were owned items. So really understanding the channels and how they work and making sure that your buyer and your team understand it as well. So, if you believe that your items need to be owned, communicate that. So if you need to be DSV, communicate that. So once again, develop that relationship with your buying team over at Walmart.com and over-communicate, kind of build that relationship and, and kind of over-communicate what you're thinking about, the channel you need to be in or what's best for them and best for your business. Item specs, so going in, putting in the correct, attributes. So your height, weight, vendor pack quantity, warehouse pack quantity, making sure that all that's correct. So it matches whatever you're setting up in One World Sync or at the G10 level. Variant groupings. So this is probably the most fun part of item setup. So definitely, it's very important to do that, but also to have discernment. So discern your variant groupings and what's best for your company. So if you have, I've worked with suppliers where, they, worked with toys, right? And they'd have 3 colors of the same toy, or they'd have, 3 stuffed animals, a dog, cat, and a squirrel, or something. And so rather than making variant groupings of that, we decided it was best to make a SKU page individually for each of those items for search ranking and for visibility purposes. But if you're a cosmetics company, which I've worked with some the cosmetics companies at Walmart.com, and you have 36 shades of eyeshadow, you don't want to have 36 SKU pages. So that was one of my tasks I worked on with them, is to consolidate those 36 pages into one and using the right color groupings for the variant squares and making sure everything's correct and creating a really good variant grouping in the upload forms. So basic content SEO. So I really preach SEO. I've had a lot of success with it in the past, and I think it's probably one of the greatest tools you can use. So like I said, the foundation, a lot of people think that's just putting a paragraph up on Walmart.com, but I believe it's a little bit more than that. It's actually uploading search engine optimized terms. And that doesn't mean, in my opinion, just throwing a bunch of keywords into the keywords part of Supplier Center and saying that's my SEO for the day. I'm good. I'm going to be found. So we're going to go into SEO. And at any time during the SEO, if you do have questions when I'm kind of nerding out on you guys, please like stop me and say, hey, what are you talking about? Or can you explain this a little bit more in detail? So feel free to stop me. This is an open conversation. I want you guys to participate as much as I am. So content SEO, I think it's important. Those go hand in hand. I think if you put basic content up there with no SEO, you're going to get nothing out of it. So if you're not on the first page, you don't exist. If you're not in the top 3, you're irrelevant. So I did a study with a company this last week, and they wanted to check and see where they were and how they ranked on Google. And the SKU pages, the first 3 SKU pages had 4, 5, 6, 7 times the sales as the 4th, 5th, and 6th rankings. And so it was crazy to see how that bump up from 4th to 3rd position makes that big of a difference. And it was that way across 11 items. So the 4th position, the 4th listing on Google when you searched was kind of irrelevant. So really being proactive and doing your blocking and tackling and going ahead and uploading that when you're getting the basic content uploaded, because Google takes account to history, and you don't want to upload bland basic content and get downranked for that. So we'll go into that a little bit later. So next is content SEO again. So the e-commerce process, in my opinion, is just an infinite loop of analyzing, enhancing, reanalyzing, re-enhancing, and it really doesn't stop because in the e-commerce world, things are constantly evolving and changing. There's not really much stagnant going on, especially with the battle between Amazon, Walmart. Google's changing their algorithm on a monthly basis now for search engines. So if you're not staying on top of that, it's kind of hard to stay at the top position. And then consumer-generated content, which I'm kind of, my personal opinion, especially with Walmart, it matters. But as a millennial that web rooms all the time, like I'm searching for anything. Like if I'm in the store, I'm online looking it up. I go to Amazon and I look up the reviews because there's typically a lot more. So that's something they're working on. So with my clients that I work with, the consumer-generated content, the reviews, the Q&A responses to that really aren't at the utmost importance yet. As most of the people that I know that are web rooming and showrooming are looking at the reviews elsewhere. And then promotions and expansions. So working with WMX if you want to do paid advertising and whatnot, and expanding your assortment. So those are kind of like the basics that, to be successful online that I do. And so I make sure that I'm doing these things with every item that I'm working with. So let's see. Yes. I have like 50 slides for that. So I will hopefully answer your question out of that. So we'll get there. So here's kind of something that that I follow is, the sales funnel. So awareness, interest, decision, action. So e-commerce, a lot of people look at it as like a thorn in, their side. Like I got to get the items up. I'm not going to sell a lot of money on there. I'm not going to, it's something that's like, it's kind of a pain. And so, but you need to look at it from this, from the perspective of as research and reach. So you're basically getting a branding for your item that you didn't have before. You're getting marketing that you didn't have before. And so marketing is moving from a push marketing where people are shoving marketing materials down your throat to a pull marketing where people want to go to a SKU page or go online and see the actual things that basically see the content that they want to ask, answers the questions they want to ask without even asking it. So, it's really important to be aware of the impact e-commerce has. It might not be selling a ton, but you sure are getting more visibility than you did previously. You're getting branding you didn't have previously. So I think it goes deeper than just selling in another channel. So branding, omnipresent visibility, information. So being able to go online and like pull down a PDF off my Walmart SKU page, like that blows my mind. And nobody does that. My SKU pages, I had in, downloadable PDFs and as much information as I can for basically people to have their questions answered. So, and I'll share some of these slides on we got to speed it up a little bit. I'll share some of the slides on the Walmart.com group and some of this information. So please join and look over this. I'm going to try to get to the important parts. So e-commerce best practices. So item setup and compliance, it's boring. Getting compliant, going live. So doing that successfully, in order to have the next step, the images and content, you got to be up online and compliant. So images and content, to me, this is a basic step, and that includes required images, basic content, SEO, and unique HTML. And we'll get into both SEO and HTML and how to use that with Supplier Center to take you from the second, third page, fourth page, 90th page. I can't find my item to one of the top listings. So we'll get to go over that. Enhance, which is adding additional images, video content comparison tables. This, in my opinion, is important, but I really believe that the basic content is really what matters. I don't think that those interactive tours and those long, huge, enhanced content portions that people are paying for are really worth it. And I used to be a content service provider. So I see more results from images and content, SEO, and HTML than I ever did from enhanced content. And we'll go over that too. Analyze, so that's looking at traffic, keyword analysis, buy box, and sales. And so we'll go over that too in another slide. Anybody need to take pictures or notes? Still write notes? Okay. So we're going to go over SEO and content. So this is the basic SEO and content portion. So content is king. So the first impression that's made to somebody is in 7 seconds online. Through many studies, first 7 seconds, people are going to be impressed, they're going to check out. So creating content that captures somebody in that first 7 seconds is what matters. So you have 7 seconds and 77 words to really grab somebody's attention. Now you have 2 seconds and you have 3 words. And if you don't catch me at that, I'm going to AD you out and I'm not going to look at your page. So content marketing is one of the most effective ways for retail brands to make a great first impression and market themselves. The branding opportunity with this is pretty substantial. So you can go from having no brand name or knowledge of who you are or what your company is, and being online makes some really good first impressions. So a couple facts about content marketing. It generates 3 times as many leads as traditional marketing. So you got billboards this year, which are up 12%. I want you, when you're leaving here today, to look at 5 cars you're driving out of. And out of those 5 cars, every passenger is going to be looking at their phone. And probably 4 out of 5 of those drivers are going to be looking at their phone. So people don't really pay attention to these billboards. People are paying pop-up ads are up in cost. As a millennial, I'm telling you, like if I have executives that say, hey, can you please tell me what you think about pop-ups and billboards and all this other marketing. If I ever see a pop-up on my phone with your brand and I have to click that stupid little X and I accidentally hit it and I go to a different screen, I will make a note in my mind forever and ever to never buy your product and to tell everybody how much it sucks because you ruined like 10 seconds of my life. So, so it's very effective compared to traditional marketing because people can go online and they can pull what they want to see. They want their questions answered without asking them. They want you to create the questions. And the way you do that is through content marketing. So more than the facts, going over statistics, creating content that relates to every personality type. So find your type A people and your type B people that you work with and say, hey, do you like bullet points? What do you look for? Me, I like pretty things and shiny and colors and like coloring books and like that's my type of stuff. And there's some people that want like 10 paragraphs about the item, or not really, but like scannable headers, bullet points, concise descriptions. So some people want that. So reaching those different personality and consumer types. So what is an SEO? So I was at an event recently that I was speaking at, and somebody asked, what is an SEO? And where can I find this? And I kind of started laughing, and I felt really bad because I think she kind of got embarrassed, but I was like, oh, wait, duh. So it's one of those things like people don't really haven't grasped on this yet. And so to me, her asking that, super encouraging for you. You know why? Because now you're seeing that people really aren't grasping this yet. So you have an opportunity right now on the front lines to be able to enhance your content with SEO on Walmart.com and shoot up the ranks. And I did a test at the beginning of this year and took an item from third page to #1 listing since week 1. And it took minimal effort, about $400 out of cost out of my pocket. And I doubled sales. And I got the case studies on here from several instances where not enhanced content, but basic content and the Walmart SKU pages, I was able to have significant improvements just by that. So SEO stands for, so it's kind of like SEO for people who don't understand it. SEO stands for search engine optimization. And so it is a practice of increasing both the quality and quantity of website traffic. So not only are you wanting to increase the amount of people going to your SKU page, but you're getting the people there that you actually want there. They're going to buy your product that are interested in it, So I worked with a dog bone company for a little bit last year, and the search engine results on it were absolutely horrible. One of them was is it illegal to eat your dog on the dog bone thing? And I'm like, so you see the funniest things when you do this. So it's actually kind of entertaining. You see the most interesting things people ask to get to your SKU pages. But when you use SEO, you get the right people to your SKU page that are actually going to convert, that aren't just going to sit there and looking at, So it increases the quantity and the quality, as well as exposure to your brand through non-paid search engine results. It's free. You got to buy some tools, but other than that, it's free. So despite the acronym, SEO is as much about people as it is about search engines. So it takes 7 seconds to get someone's attention, 77 words. So you're using this SEO to get people to get that first impression. So it's about people, understanding what they're doing, the who, what, when, where, why, how. How did they get there? What are they looking for to get there? What are they, when, where are these people located? You can get all that information through search engine optimization. So finally, how can you provide the best findable content to fulfill all of those questions? And it's through SEO. You can fulfill all that. So you can figure out the who's looking at your pages, the when, the where, the why, the how, the what. So SEO to grow. So the 77-word first impression with shoppers is super important. But the first 150 words, which actually that's incorrect because Google just made an update, and the 150 words is now about 100 or less words. So the first 100 words is what makes the first impression with Google, which is your item title. So making those titles that you put in that are they're just super bland, Google's really paying attention to that. That's the first impression Google's getting of your SKU page. So making that title foster organic search results is ideal. So SEO-friendly content, writing content that's grossly misunderstood, or SEO content is grossly misunderstood. It's thought of as a fad or something that's not really, works. But I'll show you some successes I've had with it. So you can totally SERP. So that's using a search engine. So how do you get to do this? How do you learn how to do SEO? Act like a millennial. So I'll be honest with you. So I Google everything. So I'm a parent. I have an 18-month-old and a 3-month-old. And I've learned a lot of my parenting techniques off of YouTube. And my kids are both alive. And it's amazing the things you can learn on there. And so a lot of millennials, I was reading a study after, having this, this thought, is that most millennials are learning that from YouTube more so than they are from their parents or from family members. So YouTube, you can learn everything about SEO, about content HTML on YouTube. And then Google, search quality guidelines, look up the Cliff Notes versions of that. It's 160 pages. I've read the whole thing, but the Cliff Notes will give you what exactly Google looks for in ranking your SKU pages. And then Google your questions. Act like a hypochondriac. And that's what I do. I think something's wrong. I look it up. Of course, it tells me I have something horrible, but I do it anyways. So the first steps, audit. So look through your SKU page, see kind of what it's, what's lacking in content, and think about how can I reach people better. So know your audience. Who are they? Who is going to be the people searching for your pages? And what problems are they looking for you to solve for them? So Google has a saying, it's called YMYL, your money, your life. So they're going to rank pages better that are going to positively impact someone's money or their life. So if it's going to bring value to their life, then, and Google's algorithm reads that, then you're going to get ranked higher. So think with that mentality, your money, your life. What are you going to do? How are you going to help people's money and their lives with your products? Then eat, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So if you look sketchy and you don't sound like you're an expert and you look like you just copy and pasted a bunch of stuff on there, they're going to downrank you. So my biggest success, I would say, is HTML plus SEO plus Supplier Center. This is why I kind of say that, third-party providers are needed when you get past this initial stage and you need content created. But with Supplier Center, SEO, and HTML, I believe you can fully bring in, put yourself in the top for search results. You can increase sales, double your visibility, just through using simple, learn off YouTube, SEO practices and HTML practices. There's tools online you can do, put your paragraphs in there, and it puts it in HTML for you. And you just paste it into your Supplier Center. I got a picture of it, so I'll show you how to do it. You can HTML. So you can SERP, you can do search engine, Google, YouTube. You can also HTML. So YouTube, and then Google your questions. There's some amazing people on there that teach you how to do HTML on YouTube. So important basics, page titles, links, and headings. So like this is one of the items that I did. So making sure that the description, is concise and less than the maximum amount. So there's a tool here that I want all of you to install on your computer. It's called Chrome extension. It's a Chrome extension, and it's SEO extension. It's for free. And you push a button, and then it gives you a ranking of your headers, your descriptions, and your keywords, and tells you where you're over and under. So with the change in Google, now it's telling me that I'm, a little high on the characters, which is 70, and that my description is higher. So knowing how Walmart makes their content, they add walmart.com to the end of your item description automatically. So if you have a long description, it's throwing that on there, and it's downranking you. People don't know that. If you have more SEO, if you have more characters a certain amount, you're going to get docked, and you're not going to show up. But it gives you all those. And then here's an item I did at the beginning of this year. This is the description. So a lot of people talk about stickiness. It's really, really, really hard if you're just putting a paragraph in there to get it to stick. And one of the successes I had is using HTML, which I just paste in the description portion right here, using an HTML tool if you want to use that. And then I can create a very aesthetically pleasing flow of content that I can change the colors of the text. I can even add banners and images in there, just like enhanced content does. You can even add some things in there like, trackers, or if you want how many people visit your SKU page, stuff like that that's a little more intense. But this is something I really recommend you guys do. And if you can put your content in HTML, and I'm going to show you what happened just by doing this to the SKU page, you're going to have some pretty big results. So this is what I saw with this item. So we had an initial downfall after changing the content because it changed the way Google looked at the content or the SKU page. So we updated the content there. We used a keyword study using SEMrush, which is a tool that costs $99 a month. And it will tell you every keyword someone used to get to your page. $99 a month. You type in your hyperlink, paste it in there, search. All I did was write copy. I do copywriting. I wrote a couple paragraphs and bullet points. But then I threw SEO words in there, search terms that people used, and ones that I thought people would use. And then I put it in HTML. So I put a heavy focus on headers, making sure that those contain search engine terms. Internal, external links. So internal links is linking to your other Walmart SKUs. So like you see those links, click here to see, click here to see. You can actually use those and link back to other SKU pages or to your manufacturer website. And when Google sees that you're linking to your website or to your Amazon site, even though it's not, I don't want to sell Amazon things, it's going to boost your credibility because you're linking it elsewhere and verifying your site through linking. So this is kind of what we saw. We saw a 204% increase in product page views. We saw a 121% increase in Walmart.com sales, and we saw a 64% increase in keyword ranking overall. And that cost me a couple $100 and some time. And so I'd really recommend that each of you guys go and try to take an opportunity to look through this stuff and to do this SEO. Own your content. You don't even want to own your content. Own that basic content. Because if seasons change, or if Walmart changes their API and you're using somebody that's communicating via API, your content's going to get stuck, or you're going to have a problem. And you can write it in the HTML that Google's constantly looking at and updating on a monthly basis, and that's going to keep you up in the search rankings. Most people during this time, when Fred updated in March, lost 50 to 75% of visibility. And my ski page that I worked on in January to show at this event saw a 204% increase. So I'd highly recommend trying that out. Another example of an item I worked with, this is HTML SEO with also rich content. Had a 4,332% increase in product page views, an 80.3% increase in Walmart.com sell, and 34% increase in stores. So this stuff works. And I see these results on a typical basis when I work with items like this. So, okay, we're going to wrap it up. So come to me with questions after this. I know we had to cut it a little bit short. Ask me anything. And I'd recommend if you do have questions and you're afraid to ask here, or you don't really want to ask in person, add me on LinkedIn. It's Colin B, Collin, and then B as in boy. I have a bow tie in my picture. And then tell me, hey, I was at the event, and I talked to you, and this is what we talked about, and because I get a lot of DMs, and then I will respond to you, and we'll figure out how we can better your business. I'll post this for you guys to look at, how to rank in 2018, some of the best practices. And then last thing, eyes and ears. Where eyes and ears are, it matters. So I'll tell you, I mean, with my phone, I'd tell you, I'd rather get stabbed in the gut and then somebody take my wallet than lose my phone. It's a fundamental extension of my life. And without that, I don't know what I'd do. I'd go nuts. And so that is where my generation, the generations after, millennials are over 30 now. They're wired like this. So I'd really recommend focusing the places where they're looking, where it's online, and researching and branding and trying to learn as much as they can instantly through online searches. So focus on where the eyes and ears of the generations, the younger generations are focused, and you'll succeed. So I think that's it. Awesome. Hey, if you have questions, let me know. I'll be here all day. Thanks.